So notice, guys, number 63 says find the value that completes the square and then rewrite it as a perfect square. So first they want us to fill in the gap. Okay? So to fill in that gap, what you're going to do is you're going to get b divided by 2 and then square it. Well, my b value is a negative 4. So negative 4 divided by 2 squared, well, that's negative 2 squared, which is just 4. So that means that my problem looks like this. M squared minus 4m plus 4. Now they want me to factor this. Now remember, there's a trick to doing this, guys. Whenever you complete the square, there's a nice little trick. You put your parenthesis squared. You get your letter, you put it in the front. You get the very first math operation that you see right there. So it's going to be a minus. So I'm going to put a minus right here. And then just take half of your middle number. My middle number is a 4, right? So half of 4, that's a 2. And that is the answer they want right here. So they wanted that piece, and they wanted, I guess you could say, the 4 that we put in that little empty spot right there. But that's what they wanted for 63. Any other questions? 62? All right, so solve each equation by factoring. So in order to solve, you always have to set things equal to 0, right? So number 62, I'm going to add n to both sides so that it's equal to 0. So 3n squared plus n equals 0. Now, whenever you have two terms and you're trying to solve, you try to factor the greatest common factor first. So that means the letter n is going out. So that's 3n plus 1 equals 0. Okay, so I factored out the letter n, so I'm left with 3n plus 1, and that's equal to 0. Now, since there's two things multiplying times each other and it's equal to 0, that means that you can create two mini problems, n equals 0, or 3n plus 1 equals 0. Now, n equals 0 is already solved for, right? There's nothing I can do to that. But 3n plus 1 equals 0, I can still subtract 1 on both sides. So I get 3n equals negative 1. And then if I divide both sides by 3, I get my second answer. So my two solutions will be a negative 1/3, comma 0. These are my two answers to this problem. So remember, whenever you're trying to solve, set it equal to 0. That's going to kind of give you a hint as to whether you should factor. Should it be just by taking out common factors, by X method, by grouping, by whatever else they give you? Pay attention to that. Always, whenever they say solve and it's a bunch of letters, set it equal to 0. That's usually your first step. Any other questions? 58. Oh, okay. I'll redo this whole thing because this one requires a lot of explanation. So 58 is already on the YouTube stuff, but it's good for me just to kind of go over it with you guys. Let me just go over number 57 really quick with you guys, okay? And it'll be fast. But let me show you what you have to do. For sketching something like number 57, okay? So something like number 57, notice it's in vertex form. In other words, the equation looks like this. And if it's in vertex form, then the nice thing is, you know that this number is your h value, this number is your k value. But remember, the number inside, you need to write the opposite of it. So my vertex is negative 4, negative 2. So here it is, negative 4, negative 2. I put my dot here, okay? And actually, by the way, let me show you this. Let me get rid of it like that. So I put my dot right there. And then I ask myself, well, which way does this graph open? Does it go up or does it go down? Well, for that, you look right here in that little highlighted blue area. If that were to be a negative value, then that means it opens downwards. But since there's no minus there, that means this is opening up. So all you guys have to really do with this problem is you just need to graph it like that. Now, the other dots that I did, Someone asked me, like, do we have to do other dots? I said, no, you don't. Just kind of graph it normally. They said, what if they asked us to do other dots? Then here's the deal. To find the other dots, just move up one, one over. Up one, one over. Now, they say, how do you know it's a 1? Because the A value is a 1. Right? There's nothing there. So A is 1. So you move up one, one over. Up one, one over. If this was a 2 right here in the very front of the parenthesis, then you'd move up twice and 1 over. Twice and 1 over. If this was a half, then you go up half and 1 over. Okay, so the amplitude tells you kind of like your slope, rise over run type of thing. Okay, so that would be number 57. Now 58 is way different. You guys saw how much work was there that I erased, right? And the reason why 58 is different is because it's written in standard form. So y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. But there's something really nice about this method. This number right here is your y-intercept. Okay, the c value is your y-intercept. For me, it's a -5. So look, I'm going to go to -5, and I'm going to put a dot right there. Okay? Now, I got to find my vertex. Whenever you graph a parabola, and whenever you graph an absolute value function, you always have to graph your vertex. Okay? So, unfortunately for these problems, there's no way for me to find my vertex just by looking for it. Okay? You have to usually do a little bit of calculation. So, you start off with your axis of symmetry. Okay? Which is x equals to -b over 2a. All right, now -b, well, my b value is a 4, and my a value is a -2, so let me write that down. X equals to -4 over 2 times -2. So x is equal to, that's going to be a 1. Okay, so my axis of symmetry, this invisible line that I'm not supposed to draw, but I'm going to put there for us anyway. I'm just going to use a highlighter, so it's very easy to not see. But that's my axis of symmetry. Well, great. I still need my vertex. So the way you find your vertex is that you get x equal to 1, and you're going to plug it back into that equation. And that's going to give you your y value. So let's plug in 1 into my equation here. Y equals -2 times 1 squared plus 4 times 1 minus 5. So y is equal to -2 plus 4 minus 5. So y is -3. That means my vertex is 1, -3. So I'm going to put a dot at 1, -3. Now you guys should know that a parabola, okay, a parabola that has an axis of symmetry, if it has a point on this side, it should also have the same point on this side, right? So I can automatically copy the other point. That green point, I just copied it. It's a reflection. And once I have those 3 points, I can now draw my picture. Okay, so it's going to look like that. So that's 58. So yeah, the standard form ones are more of a pain, but I mean they're not terrible to do, but there's just a lot of work. So it's like I prefer the ones on the left side, the ones where I can easily find my my vertex just by looking, and then from there I just sketch it. Anything else? Your what? Oh yeah, go ahead. Anything else from there? Again, I'd rather do the ones you guys want to ask for, because that means that I answer your question. So we're good? All right, so we do get out of here. Let me just double check here. We get out of here at 1:50, which is in about 14 minutes. So we're going to do as much as we can in as little time as possible, okay? Remember, if you guys have questions, please email me. I can try to help you guys out. Your test is tomorrow, okay? And you guys are first from 7:45 to 9:45. Okay? So, no, I'm sorry. I'm thinking this is 6 because I already ate lunch. You guys are second from 10:05 to 12:05. Sorry to scare you. Okay? So, all right, let's get to it. We did 50 and 51 already, or no? No? All right. So 50 and 51, super easy problems, guys. So we did. Okay. For those of you guys that were not here, the way you find your zeros is just look to see where it crosses the x-axis. So right here would be x equal to 3 and 5. And this one would be no solution because it does not cross the x-axis, okay? So it probably was in notes from before, but I probably erased it yesterday because the other class didn't ask for it. So there we go. Did we do 52? I think we did, right? We drew a picture and stuff. Okay. 53? Mm-hmm. We did 53 as well. What about 50? Okay, so then we got 54 done. So let's go to 55 then, okay? So I'm just going to put a check there. So again, watch the videos online, guys, because that probably has those numbers that are missing right now. So you'll notice that I can factor out a -6 from this problem. So let me move it up here. So that means I get x squared plus 7x plus 6. Okay, so once I factor that, let's go ahead and factor that little piece. So on the top, for this right here, okay, I'm doing this piece right here. On the top, I'm going to put a 6. On the bottom, I put a 7. I need them to add up to a 6, but add up to a 7, but multiply to a 6. So that'd be a +1 and a +6. So that means that my factor for this problem will be -6, and then x plus 1, x plus 6, and you're done. No need to solve anything. You're just kind of working through and writing your factors. Now 56, that's called a difference of two squares. Okay, p squared minus 9 is a difference of two squares. I can write it like this: p squared minus 3 squared.
If we write 55 like 6 in the parentheses x plus 6, are we agree?
You mean like switching it is okay?
Yeah, never mind.
All right, so if you can write it like that, that means you right away go to a little pattern, right? You put two parentheses, you put a minus and a plus, and then all you do is you put your variable, which is the letter P, in the front, and then you put that number inside the parentheses in the back. So this would be -3 plus 3, and there's your answer for that problem. Okay, we did 57 and 58. Now, 59, 60, and 61 are basically just like the ones we did, just that we got to solve. Okay? So notice for 59, I cannot factor any numbers out. There are 3 terms, so let me try doing the X method for it. So 2 times -9 is -18, and -4 goes down at the bottom. Now, two numbers that add up to -4, but multiply to -18, what would that be? 2 and 9, 3 and 6, 4, 5, 6.
Like we do the quadratic.
No, nothing. Oh, it says quadratic formula. I'm like, I think we're going to have to use the quadratic formula, but yeah, that's what it says, right? So sorry about that. That wouldn't work. So quadratic formula, let me write it right here. X equals to -b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. So unfortunately, these are a bit of a bother. Not because they're hard to do, but it takes some time. So here we go. I'm going to write r equal to, okay, -b. So my b value is a -4, so it's going to be a +4 plus or minus the square root of -4 squared, that's 16, minus 4 times a times c. Let me write that down. 4 times a times c divided by 2 times a. That's 2 times 2. That's 4. So 4 plus or minus, that's 16 plus 36. That's 72. I think 36 times 2 is 72. Yeah. Over 4. So this is equal to 4 plus or minus, that's square root of 88 over 4. Now, Let me think. That's 4 times 22. So I'm going to do a little bit of scratch work on the bottom, then I'll erase it, okay? So square root of 88 is the same as 4 times 22. The 4 will go out. So it's 2 radical 22. That's the square root of 88. So I'm going to write 4 plus or minus 2 radical 22 over 4. And I can reduce the 4's and the 2 by dividing them by 2. So the 4 will become a 2. This 2 will become a 1. And this 4 will become a 2. So your answer is 2 plus or minus radical 22 over 2. So that's for number 59. I'm not sure how much space I'm going to need for number 61. Which one? Oh, the last one? I can jump to that one. Any questions on 59? Then we'll go to 77. I may have already done that yesterday. I think one of my students in 6 said, like, do the last one because that's probably the hardest one. And if I did it, I'll explain how everything works. Let's see. Yeah, I did. Okay. So check this out, guys. Yeah.
Is there going to be one like that similar on the test?
Huh?
Is there something like that similar on the test?
There's going to be one for sure. Yeah, we wouldn't put it in there unless we don't want you guys to know how to do it. So let me explain this. I know this looks a lot worse than it is. Just bear with me, okay? So, first part says the height of an object, okay, above the ground is given by that equation, all right? They say t is the time in seconds and h is in feet. How high did the object start off the ground? Now think about this. If I'm going to start an experiment, right? I'm not going to throw this thing, but if I'm going to throw this and they want to know how high it is off the ground, like I don't know yet, right? And I'm about to throw this up into the air. What is the time when I'm about to start my experiment? What's t equal to?
Time.
0. T is time, right? But what's the measurement? It's 0. I haven't started yet, right? So if you want to figure out how high this was, then it'd be really good if I set t equal to 0, right? Because once time is 1 second, now it's up here, 2 seconds up here, 3 seconds up here. So the way I figure out where the thing was to begin with is time equals 0. Does that make sense? So notice I say plug in a 0 into that equation. So I plug it in. These will cancel. Your answer is 190. Okay, so that's how we got it. That's when it starts. Starts at 190. Okay, so just plug in a 0. That tells you where it started. Okay, really easy. But you got to remember that. The second part is a little bit tougher. But what they're basically saying is when they say, how high did it go? Let's just pretend, here's me with the book, right? So I throw the book up and then it falls back down, right? If they want to know how high it is, they want to know this point right there, right? The highest point. What's that point called? I mean, this parabolic, right? So this is called the maximum, right? My vertex. So all I got to do is find my vertex. But this equation is given to me in standard form. So the way you find your vertex in standard form is you find your axis of symmetry, negative b over 2a. Okay, so I plugged in all my information, negative b over 2a. I plugged it on in. I got t equals to 2. That's my x value. They want to know height. That's my y value, or my h in our case, right? So once I know that it takes 2 seconds for this thing to reach the highest point, I plug it into this equation. That's all this work over here. And I get 254 feet. Okay? Notice, guys, we do a lot of this in this review sheet. If you notice, we've had to find axis of symmetry and then find the y value to find the vertex. We're doing it over and over and over again. Make sure you know how to do it. Because that's kind of how you do most of the problems that have to deal with solving for parabolas. Okay? Any questions on how to go about doing this? Again, this will be, if you're kind of freaking out, you're like, oh my gosh, I can't write everything down. Remember, I'm going to send you an email. I think yesterday's email already had this on there. Okay? So it'll be there for you guys today again. Alright? And I'm pretty sure I recorded myself doing this as well. So if you go on the YouTube thing, you can listen to the whole thing. Okay? So I've been recording myself with this the whole time. So, and I just realized I was talking through it right now. So anyway, I'll probably edit that piece out, but maybe I won't. Who knows? All right, let me erase this little thing right here. Is there another problem you guys would like me to do other than continue going in order? If there is, just raise your hand as I'm going through, and yeah, go ahead. 67. All right, so let's go to 67. Like I said, I'd rather do your problems than just go in order. All right, 67. What do they want us to do? Sketch the graph. Okay. All right, so here we go, guys. If they want you to sketch a graph. Now, when I taught this to some of my classes in Math 1, this is basically Math 1, right? This is just a review. I don't know if you guys agree with me, but 68 is a very easy thing to graph. Let me do that one really quick. The reason why it's easy is because of the fact that, never mind, let me not do 67 because I got like 30 seconds. I'm going to do 67 right now. Okay, so this is how you do it. Solve for y. Okay, solve for y. So x minus 2y equals to 6. So subtract x. I'm going kind of fast, I apologize, but we have 20 seconds. And then divide everything by negative 2. So this is what I get. Okay, now the negative 3 tells me where to put the dot. And then the 1/2 tells me how to use the slope. So 1 up, 2 over. And this is your line right there.